run and gun, jump and shoot, stand and fight, rip and tear. Doom is a really good game series. With no game that's objectively bad and a series spanning for over 30 years, Doom is the most important first-person shooter franchise of all time, and it continues to be a gaming powerhouse well into the 2020s. Since 2022, I have sunk plenty of hours into Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, the latter of which being one of my favourite games of all time. I even ranked every boss in those two games from worst to best, and it went down great. Mr. Carson8079, you're a bit of a dick. Didn't even respond to my invitation. Years after this video was published, Doom the Dark Ages got announced and released. If you want to hear my extended thoughts about that game, check out this video right here and in the description. But long story short, it's fantastic, just like what came before. Here we have a nearly perfect gaming trilogy, and seeing as Doom the Dark Ages added a few new bosses to the lineup, I wanted to go back for a round 2 of boss ranking. So in response to my community tab and the random rude internet guy from 2 years ago, here's my full ranking of every single boss in the modern Doom trilogy from easiest to hardest. Not the full series Doom boss ranking you may have expected, but one that I hope you enjoy. Let's see which of these demonic foes are the mightiest, in my own opinion and experience of course. For full context, I replayed every boss in the series within 1 day of writing this script, and the difficulty I played on was Ultra Violence with no slider customization on Doom the Dark Ages. I was going to play on Nightmare, but Doom 2016 doesn't allow that as a selectable gameplay option on an existing save, so Ultra Violence it is. For the record, I have beaten every boss in Doom Eternal on a fresh Nightmare difficulty playthrough, which I may bring up from time to make a point. I was a little rusty at Doom Eternal going into this, and even rustier at Doom 2016, having played neither for a few months, but I don't think it affected my experience too much. I replayed all these levels with a fully upgraded Slayer, so in Doom 2016, Doom Eternal and Doom the Dark Ages, I am at my full power. Every boss gets taken on in the same circumstances. I use the same build to take on every boss, no changing out my runes, melee or shield rune to make a particular boss easier. My Doom 2016 runes can be seen here, my Doom Eternal runes can be seen here, and for Doom the Dark Ages I chose the flail for my weapon and the auto turret for my shield rune. Before we get started, I need to give one honourable mention. The Marauder. He has no health bar, he is disqualified from the list. Is he hard? Oh, definitely, when he's in a powerful group. On his own, once you know the mechanics and you've fought him a couple of times, he's a much easier kill. If we limit him to just his boss encounter, it's a flat office area so he has to come at you straight on. There are zombies around for health, it's nothing you can't take on. They even tell you how to defeat him straight away. Now, when you take on 2 of them at once with other enemies in the mix in a much more difficult to navigate arena, that's something worth talking about in terms of difficulty. But no one considers that a boss fight, even in quotation marks. The Marauder's reign of terror over the Doom community is over, and now he's just a good enemy, part of the rotation. The Trial of Malagog is disqualified as well. Why did I even rank this as a boss fight in the first place? And now, with all that said, let's start things off with the easiest boss. Number 16, the Old One. The easiest boss in modern Doom is the Old One, Vilgax, Cthulhu himself. It should be fairly obvious why. You fight him in a giant Atlan. If I fought something in a giant mech suit, it would probably make things much easier for me. There's no variation in what guns to use, what shield rune to use, what melee weapon. You have a set loadout of moves and equipment and it's up to you to master them. Not that this makes the fight bad, it's awesome, and the peak of Atlan combat in Doom the Dark Ages. The Old One has an actual variety of attacks, with 3-hit combos, melee and range strikes, AoE attacks, and all the hentai you'd expect from a being from the Cosmic Realm. It's not particularly hard to dodge any of it given the Atlan's simple mechanics, and the shoulder cannons will deal significant damage at range, but it's still a fantastic spectacle. If you can keep track of the Old One and mind your dodging, you'll take him down in style with not much of a sweat. Number 15, the Hellguards. Every other boss from here on out is fought on foot, Slayer to Demon, and the Hellguards are the easiest among them. If you'd asked me back in 2022 what I thought of these guys on my first playthrough, I'd say they were janky, difficult, and I didn't like them, largely down to the shielded phase 1 and my struggles with timing my attacks. Coming back to them after Doom Eternal and learning to parry the Marauder, these guys are so much easier. Granted, in this run I initially forgot that you're meant to shoot the projectiles as they charge, but I remembered quickly and got back to work. When you see an attack like this begin to charge up with this white glow, blast it with a heavy weapon at the right moment and you get a nice health drop, plus a stun window on the boss to unleash the patented SSG plus Gauss Cannon combo. It's the first parry mechanic in modern Doom, Look how far we've come today. Really, the hardest bit about phase 1 is patience to let his shield drop, but if you can maximize your damage during the openings, the fight isn't nearly long enough to make you start slipping up. When they become 2, one inherits the magic and one inherits the melee, meaning you need to evade the pressure of the first while the second tries to box you in with ranged attacks. There's even teamwork attacks they can do, if you're passive enough to give them the chance. In this phase, if you lose your positioning, things can get pretty hectic, but it's easy enough to recover because there are a lot more parryable attacks in this phase. Hell, I even did some by accident. Granted, if you get both of them into a glory kill state at the same time, the other one will recover because you can only finish one at a time, but a 1v1 with an unshielded Hellguard is only going to go in the Doomslayer's favour. Fun boss, nice design, but not a challenge to me anymore. Number 14, the Doom Hunters. Here we have another triple act, where we start with one demon and end up taking down 2 at once. What a coincidence. The Doom Hunters also start a new trend of bosses becoming standard enemies in the combat loop after their initial appearance, but we're only talking about the first encounter, the one with the health bars. It's harder than the Hellguards because of all the other demons in the arena and the increase in area speed from Doom 2016. I was surprised how quickly the Doom Hunter put me on the ropes in this replay. My rust was showing and my first phase gameplay was embarrassing, but I'm an expert on recovering from a bad state in Doom Eternal, and I made them pay for it in phase 2. Knowledge is power against the Doom Hunters, and so is the fact that I have my full arsenal. Given the boss was balanced for a player with only 4 missions worth of equipment, this isn't surprising. Ice Bomb and Blood Punch will get their sleds halfway to crippled or their bodies halfway to dead. Having double Blood Punch from the Khanmaker boss gives you a near guaranteed break on one of the Doom Hunter's sleds nearly straight away. Lock-on rockets are a massive boon in the second phase of the fight, as is the Heat Blast from the Plasma Rifle to do extra damage to its shield. Granted, if I was doing a fresh playthrough, that'd be much harder, and if it was on Nightmare, that'd be even harder still. But that's not the criteria of this ranking. The arena in the second phase is a lot more varied in layers, making it easier to escape the hunters if you need a moment of reprieve. It's a well-designed fight to introduce the Doom Hunters, and it's a decent challenge, but one that can't stand up to an experienced player. Number 13, the Agadon Champion. In one of the coolest lore tie-ins in the game, Doom the Dark Ages introduces the Agadon Hunters. Yes, the same Agadon Hunters that became the Doom Hunters. Clearly something went wrong in the remodeling process if I find the cyborgs to be easier than the originals, or perhaps Eternal's combat is just cracked once you get good at it. The Agadon Hunter has been called the Marauder of Doom the Dark Ages because he makes you play the game his way. If you stay at range, he's invincible. He summons a shield and puts out a range of projectiles that you need to avoid. You need to get up in his face, trigger his melee, and stand and fight. Truthfully, this approach makes things much simpler, as all you need to do is time your parries and exploit his faulted state. Granted, his parry timings aren't the easiest thing in the world to learn, having a variety of attacks and combos with different timings, as well as the fact that he hits very hard. Successful parries will sometimes push you back out of melee range as well, which I assume is intentional design to make him harder. Also, remember, we're only counting the Agadon Champion fight where he has a boss health bar, not any standard arenas where he's included with basic enemies. So, in a one-on-one duel, he's the weakest of the Dark Ages bosses, though not by much. Number 12, the Vagary Champion. This is what I mean by the Agadon Hunter being weaker by a slight margin. Honestly, these two are interchangeable, but I had a harder time killing the Vagary Champion than I did the Agadon Champion on my replay, so here we are. It's for a couple of reasons. His area denial attacks always take a few health points off me due to my single-minded desire to stand in his face and fight, and I find his melee attacks harder to parry. He's easier to deal with than the Agadon Hunter, but he has a larger variety of threats that he can present to you, if that makes sense. For the record, I'm using the Mission 22 version of the Vagary Champion as my base for this entry, so this is him at his best with help from other enemies, and he's still barely putting up more of a fight than a lone Agadon. The projectiles of this thing are a little more demanding on your strafe timing, and as mentioned, I have a harder time dealing with the melee swipes and actually getting him into a falter state. I guess I just find the Agadon Hunter to be a simpler fight than this thing. But really, both of these demons fall into the same category as the Doom Hunters. A fine boss encounter at first, but better as a standard enemy, with the challenge level to match. Number 11, the Komodo Champion. On the other hand, the Komodo Champion stands above his Dark Ages brethren by a distinct margin. It's just because I'm bad at him. The attacks are so varied and unorthodox. This thing pokes you with that trident in unpredictable ways, including delayed attacks, the bane of my existence, and it even throws in large tail swipes for good measure with little wind-up. You can't afford to take your focus off this thing for a moment. It's very mobile, darting all around the battlefield as it hunts you down. And let's not ignore the threat it can pose with projectiles, none of which are parryable to my knowledge. I think lack of practice is what usually hurts my attempts to fight this thing, I need to take it on more often to get familiar with their game. When coupled with demanding enemies and group encounters, the Komodos are some of the hardest things in the whole game to deal with in my opinion, but the champion by itself is a formidable threat and easily the hardest super heavy demon in Doom the Dark Ages. But now we're moving into the top 10, and we only have unique bosses to talk about from here on out, so let's see what surprises we have in store. Number 10, the Creed Maker. I honestly didn't expect a boss fight against this fat fuck. How could I? Look at him. The CEO of Maker Donald's, fan of their signature burger, the Big Make. However, it's an enjoyable time and a decent challenge. My greatest shame upon replaying was dying a singular time to this tubby troglodyte, but don't let that make you think he's actually formidable. He's really not. He's a bullet hell type fight. He's got no significant melee danger, so he uses an abundance of projectiles, like a true American sitting in his Fox News chair. There's a lot of variety in his attacks, floor spikes, big spheres, plasma rifle type bullets, and he is surprisingly mobile. If you shoot where he is instead of where he's going to be, you look like an idiot. He periodically summons groups of Maker drones throughout the fight, but they die in a single shield throw, so they're more of an inconvenience placed in the game to let you get healing. Same kind of thing goes for these floating crosses in the arenas that float around and shoot lightning. One shield toss and they're gone. Though without the resource drop afterwards, because this is 2025, and the economy on health and armor is not good. They are technically dangerous, but they're not particularly threatening. I can almost forget that they're there. Phase 2 reveals the effects of overindulging on fast food, and mixes up his attacks with tall barrier segments, 3 projectile parries in a row, and a lot more demanding mix-ups of his projectiles, all while still spawning Maker drones to harass you and heal you upon their deaths. The hardest thing about this fight is simply patience, waiting for his damn shield bubble to go down so you can start beating him up again. I found this fight lasted for a long while, longer than I felt was reasonable after multiple shielded segments, but the fact that I can survive all this with a calm heart rate proves that the Creed Maker is very handleable. It's possibly the biggest example of the new strafe-focused combat that Doom the Dark Ages focuses on, and if you can get good at that, you'll get good at this fight. That being said, Creed Maker is still a decent challenge for your first true boss fight of Doom the Dark Ages, and he stands out as unique amongst the entire modern Doom boss lineup. Number 9, Davoth. To the disappointment of many, the Dark Lord can't even crack the top 5 in terms of difficulty. Truth be told, I don't think he'd be in the top 5 in terms of quality these days either, but that's not the subject of today's video. Davoth is a super marauder, as in he has one single attack that you can interrupt via bloodborne gun parrying, then you unload all your damage onto him before he can recover. Use the Sentinel Hammer to bonk this guy into a longer stun state and you'll get to unleash double or even triple the amount of damage. If you don't have the charge for your hammer, you just need to kill the phantom dogs that Davoth sends towards you periodically, or farm glory kills on the infinitely respawning zombies around the arena, which will also be your main source of healing. Aside from those 2 sole pieces of interaction you actually have with this boss, you just need to dodge a bunch of his attacks while you wait for your opening, seeing as he will block every other attempt at damage with his shield. He has unparryable sword swings that will heal him if they connect, a charging shield bash that he stole from Doom the Dark Ages, grenades and projectiles shot from his shoulder cannon, a good variety of attacks, but they're all easily avoidable via just dashing around the arena. I've beaten this boss several times on Ultra Violence and Nightmare, and the difficulty depends on if my controller responds to my attempts to deal damage during the stun state, and how often he does the parryable attacks. I like this fight, and you get checkpoints after you deplete certain phases of the fight, but the challenge has grown far lesser as I've gotten better, as to be expected. What about the Phantom Horde of Big Demons? What about the Phantom Horde of Big Demons? Number 8, the Cyber Demon. This boss is only above Davoth, Creed Maker and the Komodo for one reason. I'm an idiot and these energy slashes hit hard. Phase 1 I can almost get a flawless victory on. You have enough powerful weapons to shred the Cyber Demon's health bar, and that's with my holding back on using the BFG as much as I could. Strafing is your friend here. There's nothing the Cyber Demon does that can surprise you, especially after dealing with the tyrants in Doom Eternal. Phase 2 is where I picked up 2 deaths, because these aforementioned energy slashes are devious. I get hit by the first and so jump instinctively to dodge the second, except that one is aimed above me, and I land on the ground just in time to get hit by the third. They hit me very hard, but if I can keep in control of my reactions to that attack, which is ironically much easier when he locks you into the corridor of doom, I can use the same tactics I used in Phase 1 to attain my victory. For the record, those tactics are shoot it until it dies. Perhaps upon another playthrough, this boss would go down a couple slots, but he earned his place closer to the top with that performance. He's worthy of course, being a fun boss with a single very threatening trick. Number 7, Azrak and the Witch. The final battle of Doom the Dark Ages isn't the most challenging in the game, but it makes full sense in the context of the story. id Software can pat themselves on the back here for developing a satisfying gank fight, though calling it a gank is a little inaccurate. You only really fight one enemy at a time, as the other will be shielded. You fight Azrak at first for a good while, then he gets a shield and you fight the Witch, and the Witch is far easier to stun than Azrak is. She throws projectiles at you, occasionally parryable, but it's nothing you haven't been dealing with throughout the entire game, and as long as you can close the distance on her, you'll bring an end to her phases quickly and then get back to Azrak. And what about Azrak? His moves? Well, you've already fought most of them in the previous boss fight. After beating Enhanced Azrak, normally Azrak doesn't bring anything more challenging to the table aside from a couple of different moves. He can put the pressure on you, make no mistake, especially when combined with the Witch's projectiles, but he won't be surprising you, except for this one AoE attack in Phase 2 that I have a hard time to parry. Once Azrak's by himself, things get even easier, as now there's nothing else to distract you. Flail, shoot, repeat until he goes down, it's a very fun duel, but the challenge is mainly learning the fight the first time around, and you did most of that already. In my first playthrough, Azrak and the Witch took me at least 7 tries to beat. On this playthrough, they took me 2 tries, and I only died to Azrak's solo phase due to my own stupidity. Knowledge and experience are the keys to unlock any difficulty puzzle. Here's a helpful tip for Doom the Dark Ages. Prioritize fighting back over gathering health. My time playing Doom Eternal made me want to run for health pickups, or start looking for zombies to meat hook, but you don't have the speed for that. Instead, stick to your rhythm, stand and fight, and build up their purple stagger bar for a health drop. That's the biggest difference in these fights, and that tactic will serve you well. Number 6, the Gladiator. This fight is always a mixed bag for me. Sometimes my fight goes well and I feel actually competent at Doom Eternal. Other times I get destroyed on repeat. This time around it was mostly the former up until I lost my rhythm and had a brief scare in Phase 2, though I was able to recover and win on my first try. Phase 1 is easy. He turtles behind a giant shield like a true Dark Souls player, only exposing himself in order to attack. You've fought Marauders at this point, so when you see those green eyes flash, you know it's time to gun parry. I use the Ballista for this. I find it most reliable in actually parrying his attack, and the resulting Glory Strike does uninterrupted damage and gets you some health back. This is all standard fare. The Gladiator moves pretty slowly and you'll be able to dance around the arena killing fodder demons for resources if necessary. Phase 2 has a few more sources of difficulty. He's far less predictable now that he has 2 weapons, and he's far more mobile around the arena. His deflection attack makes me impatient to deal damage, and I'm just not good at avoiding his jump rope attack. My strafe game here is quite weak, and I almost never land a parry on his follow-up charge despite knowing it's coming. Despite all this, on Ultraviolence at least, I am able to overcome the challenge without death, no doubt helped by the amount of demons in the arena that you can use to recover your health. He may no longer be as challenging as he once was, but that's because of experience and practice. The Gladiator is a satisfying fight to overcome. Number 5, the Khan Maker. If we were talking nightmare difficulty, I could see Khan Maker being top 3. As it stands, she's top 5. Still a respectable placement, though I don't particularly respect this boss. You bring down her shields through gunplay and meat hook up to her when her health bar hits 0, blood punching her to deal actual damage and enter into the next phase of the fight. You need to do this 6 times to win, which feels like one too many, but the fight only really gets frustrating at phase 5 and 6 anyway, so maybe I'm just bitching. Her shield will regenerate after a certain amount of time, meaning you can't afford to take pot shots and run. You need continuous damage. Knowledge of your own arsenal is key here. Lock-on rockets are your best friend, as is the Ballista with the Arbalist ability. I like to use Chrono Strike to help me guarantee the hit if I can, but the rockets are usually a safe bet regardless. Her attacks involve energy balls and beams, and a holy ray of light from the sky. Nothing particularly threatening, but her real danger comes from the floor is lava. Parts of the arena become damaging to stand on as the fight goes on, damn near the whole thing by phase 5 and 6, meaning you really need to finish this fight as quickly as possible. The saving grace in this battle are the Maker drones around the arena. One headshot and they basically refill your entire health bar and ammo supply, and with freeze bombs and Chrono Strike at your disposal, this isn't a particularly hard task. My struggles with the Khan Maker largely come down to skill. I get flustered in between rocket barrages, choosing to abandon my offensive and look for healing over keeping pressure on the Khan, which I'm aware might be a mistake. On Nightmare, she was indeed a nightmare, taking me a frustrating amount of time to beat on my fresh playthrough, and on Ultraviolence she's no slouch either, despite my first attempt victory. In case you haven't noticed by now, my death count does not equal the difficulty placements, otherwise the list would look quite different. Despite all I've said, it's a good thing that Khan Maker does pose a challenge. Imagine if this thing managed to be ranked above her. Number 4, the Spider Mastermind. The hardest boss in Doom 2016 is the Spider Mastermind, and it made it to 4th overall on the list. Now, this boss placement comes with some caveats. It's mainly ranked this high just based off my experience in my latest playthrough, and the main reason I found it so difficult is that I'm just really not good at this fight. Come at me all you want, commenter, this fight deserves it. Phase 1 is theoretically simple as long as you actually shoot the giant brain and not the armored plating, and if you can stay out of melee range. Needless to say, I couldn't do that very often. To get better accuracy on the brain with my super shotgun, I'd move closer, then I'd get swiped for a huge chunk of my health bar without any quick way to avoid it. The laser grid was also the bane of my existence. I think you're meant to use the duck button to avoid the specific ones that kept catching me, but that duck button is the most pointless thing in a Doom game since the basic punch in Doom Eternal, so I never used it. Phase 2 is just incomprehensible to me. To this day, I don't fully understand why sometimes the pillars have spikes and sometimes they don't, whether the blue floor will kill me or not, and I don't really plan on replaying the fight enough to learn as I don't particularly enjoy fighting the Spider Mastermind. I just resorted in the end to playing more cautiously, hopping around the platforms when I was forced to stand on them, and taking shots when I felt it was safe, and this worked out for me. The raised platforms were also my best defense against the lasers, strafing behind them when necessary. Phase 3 is chaotic, but it's short, and the single time I made it to this phase was the time that I won the boss fight, so I'd say it's the easiest part of the fight. Kill this stupid thing before it can whip out any bullshit and you're good to go. If I took the time to actually get good, this fight would likely be lower on the list. If I was playing on Nightmare, this fight might just be the highest. But where it stands right now, the Spider Mastermind wins the 4th hardest boss in Modern Doom award, and it can enjoy that award right before I rightfully blow it to pieces. Number 3, Enhanced Azrak. This is the boss that the Dark Lord should have been, and Enhanced Azrak is the hardest boss in Doom the Dark Ages so far. A demanding one-on-one duel with an intimidating enemy who can actually back up his bravado. To summarize his moveset, he wants to hit you with his spear. Like, really, really badly. Your ability to read his moves, learn his combos, and parry him appropriately will determine your success in this fight. You need to get him in the falter state through chain parries to smash him with melee and blast him with your guns during the downtime. I recommend the super shotgun or chain shot, single shot high damage weapons with decent range. Like the Creedmaker, he summons weak minions that you can destroy for health, and you'll need them because he hits hard, and when you mess up one parry, it's easy for him to combo your ass into the grave, especially if he manages to put your shield out of commission. Phase 2 is just more of the same with faster attack rates and longer combos. He's more mobile in this phase too, so it may be best saving your shots until he's faulted, mixing them in with your melee. The flail was a decent choice here because of the armor drops and its quick recharge, but I can confirm that the gauntlet is effective as well, and the mace might just be the best weapon for the job overall. Phase 3 is easier than Phase 2. The new attacks he adds in aren't difficult to deal with and give you time to breathe and refocus, with the exception of his new triple thrust spear combo that took me a while to pick up on. You can really get in a rhythm with this fight of parrying and striking, almost like a dance. Like I said with base Azrak, focus more on fighting than looking for healing. You see the red phantoms? Kill them, back to focus. You see the orange spikes? Shield throw them if you're safe, back to focus. Don't turn your back and run away to find health. Trust in your own ability to stand and fight, and you'll get your health back from staggering him. On my first playthrough, I died a healthy amount of times to each phase, as expected. New boss, new attacks, new challenge. After I set the difficulty to Nightmare the second time around, I had a similar experience in terms of struggle and death count. On my replay for this video, it took me half an hour to beat him, and I died an absurd amount of times. I just couldn't time his parries, and I couldn't deal enough damage to bring him into a stagger. That shocking experience made me wonder, is this fight the new number 1? Is this fight the new hardest boss in Doom, even over the Seraphim? Then I went back, immediately replayed the level, and beat this bastard on my first try. Fuck you, Prince Azrak. Enhanced or not, you are no Sammy Hayden. But what he is a damn tough boss, possibly my favorite in the series right now. While I may not rank him as the hardest after the thorough beating I gave him on my additional replay, I can't place him any lower than the top 3. Funny enough though, even if I put the difficulty back up to Nightmare, Enhanced Azrak wouldn't go any higher on the list. That's because I've fought these 2 remaining bosses on Nightmare, and they're both absolutely cracked. Number 2, the Icon of Sin. Do you just enjoy shooting at walls? I'm sorry, when was the last time a wall bludgeoned me to death with massive punches, or roasted me with palm fire, while summoning endless hordes of demons to assault me, or while actively moving around to dodge my attacks? I can't quite recall any instances. The Icon of Sin is a fittingly difficult final boss. There's just a lot going on during both phases, and a lot of jank, mainly due to the Icon's punches. It's hard to know where is safe and where is a guaranteed death zone whenever he starts winding up. It's a lot easier to avoid all of his attacks in Phase 2 due to the larger arena, but you've got to make it to Phase 2 first. With the Icon constantly summoning powerful demons, bombarding you with meteors, fire, and constant melee attacks, regardless of your stage in the fight, death is a high possibility in your future. The blessing here is that you get a lot of resources in both arenas. One blue sphere in each arena for instant recovery, BFG ammo to enable your super weapons, and infinitely respawning crucible pickups and blood punch charges. You'll need them, because the way you fight this boss is different to pretty much anything else in the game. You use the crucible and blood punch to wipe out the normal demons, while your guns are all focused on the Icon, destroying each of his 8 body parts 2 times over across the 2 phases of the fight. This mechanic doesn't change. I like to use the BFG nice and early to take out the torso, chest, and head if I can. Anything else is too mobile of a target for those shots. I considered using the Unmaker, but it proved ineffective compared to the classic. Aiming for the Icon's arms is a bit problematic, depending on what weapon you use and what attacks the Icon throws at you, but I found the chain gun and micro missiles to be effective here, as well as a Chrono Strike assisted destroyer blade from the ballista. Just keep track of your ammo, because this strategy is quite demanding. Phase 1 is essentially a matter of managing your spatial awareness and verticality. In my opinion, this is the harder phase of the fight. Sure, the Icon sits still for you to use the BFG in your rockets, but you also have a lot less area to avoid his attacks. I prefer to go up high and then fall down to the ground, blasting him with everything I have on the way down, in order to reach Phase 2 as quickly as possible. I racked up 5 out of my 6 deaths in this phase, just due to being overwhelmed by everything in a cramped space and not adapting fast enough. Player skill issue for sure, but isn't that what a difficulty ranking is all about? Phase 2 is the easier phase of the fight for me, but it's for an unconventional reason. I've spent every second minute running around the arena like a spider monkey, collecting crucible pickups and shredding demons for resources. Because the arena is larger with more layers, it was easier for me to pull this off, and then when I was fully set, I'd focus everything on the Icon, doing pretty good damage before repeating my hit and run tactics until he died. I'm sure there are better ways to take down the Icon of Sin, but this has proven the most reliable one for me. I used this strategy on both Ultraviolence and Nightmare, and it managed to prove effective, slaying the Titan and ending the game with a satisfying triumph, and a very hard fought one at that. But let's not beat around the ballista here. We all know what boss is going on top of the list. Number 1, the Seraphim. As expected, number 1 is the Seraphim. Samu Maker, Samuel Hayden. I had him at number 1 since I began thinking of doing this list, and aside from the brief struggle against Enhanced Azrak, nothing has come close to knocking him off of his difficulty throne. His reasons for being up here are quite simple. He has 5 phases and none of them are an easy time. Let's break them all down in a hurry. Phase 3 is kind of whatever. If you're good at killing Kako demons, you'll see this phase as a breather. And Phase 1 is only made tricky due to Samu Maker shadow stepping around the map like an unlimited Reaper from Overwatch, messing up your lock-on rockets which were previously so reliable. Attacking during his attacks is the best way to guarantee damage, and he's not bulky enough to be frustrating. Also, watch out for his floating balls. They don't hurt you much, but they slow you down, and in a game like Doom Eternal, that's just as good as killing you outright. Phase 4 is just Phase 1 again, but in a much more varied arena, and with far more threats around you. The lasers from Phase 3 are still here, there are more floating energy balls, and there's an infinitely respawning supply of blood makers that will both slow you down and kill you outright if they can. Yes, they can be used for healing and ammunition, but getting a headshot on them during their brief openings alongside dealing with everything else in the map is far from easy. If they weren't here, this fight would be half as difficult, and I mean that. But Phase 1, 3, and 4? Perfectly reasonable. I didn't die once during any of these 3 phases. If this was the whole boss fight, it'd be down there with Khan Maker. But it's not the whole boss fight. Phase 2 is hard, and Phase 5 is the hardest thing in any Doom boss battle by far. Spirit buffed enemies are tough, and 2 of them at once is a little ridiculous. Phase 2 with the Hell Knight and the Mancubus isn't that bad if you're good at fighting off of your back foot, given the arena is still easy to navigate at this point and you only have to deal with Samu's magic balls. Just don't get tunnel vision towards microwaving the spirits, or the other buffed enemy will be quick to punish you for it. That's how I got my single death in Phase 2. But Phase 5 can fuck off. Imagine everything I just talked about in a much more vertical arena, with lasers punishing your movement, more of Samuel's balls, and a blood maker on your ass, all while you deal with a pain elemental and a dread knight that have no weaknesses because they're buffed. Does that sound agonizing? Because it should. Because it is. You can't stay still for a second. I spend most of my time in this phase meat hooking from zombie to zombie or going through teleport portals just running away, waiting for a chance to kill the Bloodmaker so I can turn around and deal a bit of chip damage to the spirit demons, before Bloodboy respawns and I have to repeat the process. If you stand still, you'll get killed. If you lose track of your enemies, you'll get killed. If you fail to kill the Bloodmaker, you'll get killed. It's all incredibly demanding while lasting for a long time, especially if you can't effectively microwave the spirits, because they will just go right back into a fresh heavy demon body, making things last even longer. Though, after saying all that, my successful kill on phase 5 took me around 1 minute. Thank God for the problem solver. The Seraphim is an incredibly demanding boss fight, a marathon where every phase can give you a hard time, and I honestly don't think they could make a harder Doom boss than him without it being blatantly unfair. Killing him on Nightmare was perhaps the greatest feat I've ever accomplished in a Doom game, and because of that, and everything else I've mentioned, Samu Maker is the difficulty king of modern Doom. And with that, it's all over. Obviously, all these placements are just my opinion, but I doubt anyone is going to argue with the top spot. Seraphim is part of the Ancient Gods Part 1, the hardest modern Doom content ever made after all. If you agree or disagree with my choices though, let me know in the comment section below, I'd love to get the discussion going. Just try to be nice, unlike some people. My Doom boss quality ranking will be out upon the release of every DLC for Doom the Dark Ages, so don't worry, I'm not quite done with the Doomslayer on this channel. If you enjoyed the video, why not leave a like? And if you want to see more boss rankings, trophy hunts, and other gaming content from me in the future, please subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to hit 4,000 subscribers before 2026 after all. If you think that I've earned it, consider subscribing to my Patreon for early access to videos, your name in the credits, and perhaps a little bit more. With all that said, I think we're done here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.